Okay, here's my next project. It's the fireplace hearth project. Basically, I have this existing fireplace. I put on some natural stone tiles all the way around it. And now I got to work on the hearth. So that's this bottom piece right here. Now, I was going to use natural stone, but I don't think it gives a really good look. You also have to deal with these edges. It's always a hassle dealing with edges. So what I've decided is I'm going to get a piece of granite or quartz, and let's just cut that to fit into this for the hearth. So I'll use the same stone, whatever I choose for the top stone here, I'll use the same stone for the sides. Now luckily, this distance here between the back edge and the front edge is well under 2 feet, which is the size of these prefabricated kitchen tops. So I'm just going to use a kitchen top. And then, again, luckily, I can use the backsplash as the front face and side face of the hearth. I'll probably come up a little bit short, but that's okay. But at least the front face and the dominant scene side will look really good. So again, let's go get our kitchen top and let's get it cut and installed as a fireplace hearth. Here's the stone I got. It's basically a quartz kitchen top. It's 2 feet by 9 feet. And so what I'm going to have to do is take this countertop, cut it down to size, then refinish one edge. It does come with one edge already brought in. I made sure my dominant edge, or dominant viewing edge, that's the edge where everybody sees, I can use the factory edge. And then that way I only have this one edge to basically redo. Again, I'm a do-it-yourselfer, so I'm not an expert at this, but there's enough on YouTube to basically get through the basics. And this is pretty straightforward cuts. I'm going to give it a roll, and let's see how this project turns out. Okay, I am a one-man operation, so this weight of this is close to 300 pounds. So I do have to deal with that aspect of it all also. And we'll show you how I can maneuver around this heavy piece of slab or quartz, just one person. Okay, the first thing I did was cut this thing down to the approximate size. Originally about 110 inches, cut it down to about 80 inches. That significantly reduced the weight. Again, this thing is heavy, about 10 to 15 pounds per square foot, I estimate. So we're up at least over 200 pounds. Anyway, just use a hose and a skill saw to do a rough cut on one edge, get it down to size. I built this ramp, I built this cart that's just the perfect height for coming off my truck bed. So I was easily able to lower it. So we're going to clean this up and move on to the next step. Okay, here's my setup. Basically using a skill saw with a diamond cutting blade. I have a hose, which is just going to provide some water. I like to cut the stuff wet. Just seems to make more sense than cutting it dry. Don't heat up the blade or anything like that. I set up a guide, clamped it down in place. So the distance between this guide, the blade should be approximately on this line. It doesn't have to be super accurate, but I want it straight. This is a final cut here. So I put the line down just to keep me, make sure my guide doesn't move, or because sometimes these guides will move if you don't clamp them real good. They keep me square. So again, we're just going to turn the water on, make the cut, and this should be a nice finished cut along here. Okay, so here's the result. I got a nice clean cut on this edge here. And now what I'm going to do, since this will be an exposed edge, I have to cut and glue a piece on the bottom here. Shouldn't be too hard, and this will be a side I have to polish up. So let's cut a small secondary piece that goes under here to give me sort of the boldness of the side here. Okay, I completed gluing on the end piece. Pretty straightforward. Just use some Gorilla Glue. Follow the instructions. One side down, add Gorilla Glue to the other side. And obviously use a lot of clamps. I'm going to wait about 3 to 4 hours. Then I'll be ready to grind this side down and make this and polish. Okay, done with that. Okay, the next thing I'm going to do is build a template. So I'm taking this lightweight wood and gluing together sections so that it makes a template. A little more to do over there, but the template basically allowed me to transfer the dimensions around these fireplace pillars directly to the stone. Sure, I can measure distances, but I don't think this thing is 100% square. And this is the way the pros would do it. They would make some sort of template. So, and again, I just had this about 1/8 inch, 3/16 inch wood. I'll cut up and super glue it together to make the template on the back side. The front side and the edges doesn't matter, and it can extend out as much as it wants, because I'll build that out as necessary. Again, the front and the two sides can get built out, no problem. But the back side, you want a clean fit. So let's make a template and do it right. Okay, my template's complete. And again, it's a template that outlines these two pillars. One other advantage of this system is it allows me to make sure that my template can slide, just like the final material will have to slide. It'll be able to be slid right in if I follow these dimensions. I can double check the gaps all along the seams to make sure they're acceptable. It's not going to be perfect. Don't want to cut it too tight, because then if I want to slide the slab in, I can't slide the slab in. Okay, so that's the template. Okay, this is my template that I made of the fireplace. Again, I have these cutouts for the columns, and I'm going to transfer this cutout pattern to the blue tape, which is attached to the slab, so I'll know where to cut out for the columns on the slab. Pretty straightforward. Just transferring the dimensions of the fireplace to the slab via a template here made out of wood. Okay, let's go cut out for the columns. Okay, I had the template off. This is the template. I put it back on now, but with it off and marked, I cut out my column pieces. Again, this is what I cut out. I used my skill saw top side, on the top side here. Again, no template. Top side, follow the tape line, and then I took my DeWalt with ceramic blade on it. From the bottom, I cut the corners, and that worked out pretty good. Just you know, when you cut from the top, you still have a lot of residual in the corners. You have to go underneath. I have enough space here. I went underneath with my smaller saw, cut them out, and they fell out no problem. I put the template back on, because now what I'll do is I'll go back and just trim up any excess, maybe a little excess like right here, 1/8 of an inch I got to get rid of, and let's trim it up with my 4-inch saw. Okay, I just completed cutting my edge right here. Again, this is the edge where I glued on a bottom piece using the Gorilla Glue, and just cut off about 1/4 of an inch to give a nice clean cut Instead of trying to align the bottom edge of the top, I just glued it and then just cut off about 1/4 of an inch. That way this edge right here is nice and smooth. Okay, next step we're going to do is do grinding. We're going to break out our, first of all, our 4-inch grinder to hit any high spots, and then we'll start using the gridded paper and so forth to get this cut edge equal to the factory edge. One more thing to remind everybody, use a ground fault interrupter outlet, and you really should test it before you even use the outlet, because you stand in water and you use an electrical equipment, so it's usually not a good combination. So double check ground fault interrupter outlet. Okay, I completed polishing the side. Everything came out good. Again, I'm using my DeWalt grinder with this attachment with these different grit pads. This goes up to 3,000. My finish isn't quite as shiny as the top. This is a edge that will not be seen very easily, so I'm going to say it's good enough. If I can find a polisher or something to go higher grit, I'll just have to do that when the piece is in place. Okay, ready to build a jig to lower this down onto the mantle, and we'll take a look at that jig next. Okay, here's my setup for lowering down the granite hearth down to the base. Basically, I build this jig or rig. I have to see what it really is. Anyway, I build this structure, and these pieces of 2x4 that are stacked here, I can take out one at a time. So I can lower it about 4 inches at a time, roughly, and they're all tied together on both sides, and then I have these beams for more stability. And again, all the weight goes on these stacked 2x4s, which have a real great compressional strength. And again, I'll just move these cross beams down as we move along, taking out the individual beams. So, and again, this height is the same height as my cart, approximately, so it's real easy for me just to slide the piece over onto this structure. Okay, I slid the stone off the cart over to my structure, and now we're just going to start lowering it down. Okay, I've slowly lowered down the slab, and I remove these pieces of wood one by one and just readjust my supporting beams and my cross beams, and I'm lower it down. And now I'm just about a foot off the surface, so everything's going real smooth. Okay, pretty much done. Again, step the wood out one piece at a time, lowered it down. I'm in. I got to finish the bottom of underneath the hearth. I just have to fill in underneath around the edge, fill out the base, and more or less done. Okay, good project. Took me about a day and a half, and all the measurements came out really good. Nice fits around the fireplace pillars here. Those look really good, so the template technique worked excellently. Okay, that pretty much completes the fireplace hearth installation.